Hey all, welcome back to the workbench. Part 2 of my Airfix, or year of the Airfix. So this is the Fw-190 I started doing recently. Okay, I've got to stop doing this. I keep doing it quite regularly now. I build without recording. So what I've done here is I've painted on, what is that, copper or gold, so that I can sand back and see where any imperfections in the joins are. So I've already done half of it. So I'm just finishing up here one wing and the nose there you can see there. That's an emery board that I'm just using there. You pick up from the makeup aisle of the your local supermarket or from your local chemist. And I've got myself some what are these sanding sponges. All I'm doing here is just going through, checking all the perfections, sanding down. The sanding sponge is 400 grit. It's quite fine for what I was expecting. I'm not going to go any further with the sanding grit, bring it down to 2000 grit. That's just not worth it at this scale. Okay, now I'm just cleaning the surfaces up with a bit of Tamiya lacquer thinner, I think it is, just to get rid of all the dust. And start my first painting. The cockpit has already been painted in the previous episode. Now I'm just going to be finishing up the top part of the cockpit there. That's the headrest there. It's supposed to be a red colour, but I don't know why it would be a red colour which is supposed to be leather or something like that. So I've gone for an RLM 02, I think it was, which is the interior grey colour. I just painted up there. I'll put a red on the headrest to imitate the leather. But at this stage, yeah, I thought I'd just leave it to the RLM 02. This is the RLM 65, I think it was, dark grey. So I'm just doing the instrument housing on top. And yeah, cleaning up. Going to be making a bit of a mistake here, big one. I've just reached for the canopy, as you can see I've got it there now. Trimmed it a lot, smoothed it all out, and just test fitting now. Don't worry about that pot of paint still open, I didn't spill it. The mistake came with gluing this canopy on. Okay, I'm dry fitting here, but what I didn't figure out while I was dry fitting is where the actual canopy came in touch with the headrest and the instrument panel at the front. So here I'm test fitting it, sanding it down, making sure it fits nice and snug. Then I go ahead and put some what was it, thin cement around to glue it in place. But what actually happened? Oh, here we go. Here's the red I was talking about earlier. This is Citadel paint now. So I'm just painting that headrest up. It's scarum leather or something like that, I think was the colour. So back to the canopy. Yeah, so I was cleaning the interior out there with the tissue just to get rid of all the dust. Test fitting it and going to use thin cement. There it is there. Okay. So the front part is okay. This back part, whoops, you just saw it then quickly. And the back part was the glue got underneath the canopy. I didn't realise at the time, so I had to, that's why it's been cut short there. I had to pull it all apart and sand it back, clear coat it inside with, was it Humbrol Clear to get rid of the sanding that I had to correct up everything else. Okay, now I'm just on to marking out the panel lines and the rivet lines here. So all I'm doing here is I've blown up, sorry, I got an image off of blueprints.com, I think it is. and blowing it up so that the wingspan and fuselage length match what the model is. I didn't really go in for accuracy of is this in scale or not compared to the drawings, because I didn't have a scale against the drawings. So this is my first attempt at trying to get the panel lines onto the model. So I'm measuring out on the paper and measuring out in the model, and I kept on making mistakes. It was just too hard. So I thought, okay, let's use a bit of a datum. The datum was that line going down the left hand side of the wing, the diagonal one. So I used that as the starting point and referenced everything else off of it. And then I just used, okay, there's the back of the flap line, which is present on the model. Sorry, the front of the flap line with reference on the model. So I could get all the other points as well. So I was just using different points on the diagram that was on the model already, created by Airfix, so I could put these lines on. Basically, with this model, I was trying out a lot of different techniques to do different things. So you'll see me use a rivet wheel later on. I'll use it differently on the top surface as opposed to the bottom surface. I did the wings differently on top to the bottom, etc. So all I'm doing here is just pencil lining in the lines that were already on the model. It's like the engraved lines already. I chose to do one wing at a time because it was just easier to do. Something I picked up from another YouTuber was to prime the model first. So that's what's happened here. I did that off camera, and then scribe your lines on. Your scribing becomes, or your scribe lines become a bit more finer than they would if you went straight into the plastic. As you're doing here, I'm doing about 5 passes with a knife to get the depth that I was after. Sometimes I didn't lift it up, that's why it looked like I did 3 lines instead of, 3 passes instead of 5. So all I'm doing is reinforcing the engraving that was already there. The top surface of the wings were easier to do because I could work down on top of the bench. You'll see it very shortly. I'm trying to do the bottom surface later on. So now I've got the rivet wheel out and I'm trying to put the rivets on along the panel lines first, then across where the ribs would be. Here I'm just putting down masking tape just to protect the flaps at the back so that I don't put rivet lines all over them. Here I'm trying to use just the straight edge on my ruler to line everything up. But it wasn't working. It looks good now that it's finished, but at the time I couldn't see the wheel because the way this is a Husky-Gala tri-tool, so the way this tool's made, you couldn't actually see the rivet wheel itself. It just poked out a bit where it was going to indent onto the plastic. So using a straight edge like the ruler here was not easy. It was a bit of a challenge. Later on I figured out the easiest way to do it, especially on small 70-second scale kits, was to do it freehand. As you saw there, I had to correct something, so that's actually me filling in or removing the rivets that was made already. It's all in all, I think on this night I did about an hour and a half worth of work to get the lines in and the rivets done. The rivets are a bit tedious, and in some cases I don't think they were deep enough. I didn't show you the other wing. The other wing is just a duplicate of what the first wing was. Okay, so doing the other side here, so I'm going back through with what I was doing before, pencil lines on where the existing panel lines were, and using the same technique before, got a reference point, which is the line on the left hand side of the wing, and measuring out, put it on the model and drawing it on. This time around, instead of doing the left wing first, then the right wing, I decided to do the entire wing surface. It caused a few headaches because, as you can see there, I'm mutton-handed, left-handed, and yeah, I ended up erasing the lines that I'd just drawn on as I was doing other lines. So if you're going to do this, do it one wing at a time, otherwise you're just going to be redoing work again. When I was doing this, I actually, on the piece of tape that I was using, penciling in where hatches were, inspection holes, access panels, etc. were, and referencing them on the models just to give me more reference points, but they were out. So it looks like the kit is inaccurate from where they put access, like that gun access panel there that you see on the left wing. It's out in the wrong spot. It's around about 2 or 3 mil out in one direction, and it's also not wide enough according to the instructions or that diagram got in front of me. So this is the underbelly panel underneath the cockpit. Strangely enough, it only has a single row of rivets, from what I can tell by the diagram, that go along the border of the panel. It doesn't actually go across like the other panels did when it going across rib lines, so there mustn't be anything underneath that area there. And here I go. I think I just went off. No. That's right. You'll notice on the diagram, it's the aircraft has got a split down the middle where it shows you the top view and bottom view in one image. So I did 2 pictures of this, one with the image by default, and then I flipped it over to give me the reference points for the right hand side. So all I did was, in Word, I stuck my pictures in Word to make sure I got the right scaling I wanted, and scaled up inside Word, and then just told Word to flip the picture over. Okay, I cut the video there because all you were seeing was me doing more and more panel lines for about another 5 minutes, so I decided to cut it short there. The panel lines are basically all scribed in now. All I'm doing here is a bit of clean up the wheel wells, getting rid of the nubs inside the wheel well. They were the locating lugs for having the undercarriage in the up position, and getting rid of the bits and pieces from in there. Putting some panel lines back in, and now here I am trying to, here we go, I went off camera again on this shot. I should remove it, but never mind. So all I'm doing here is with the still straight edge again, using the rivet wheel and putting the rivets onto the surface, but I had to use the edge of the desk to do so. Okay, I cut that short deliberately because everything was off camera, you won't see anything. So here I am, I'm using dynamo tape here to try and create a straight edge, but it wasn't working either. For the flat surface, it just wasn't worth it. I found later on it was good for curved surfaces, I'll get it right, such as the fuselage. And so now I'm doing it freehand, and it's a lot faster and a lot easier to do. I just used Mark 1 eyeball and lined up the guides or the plastic either side of the rivet wheel with the previous line or a line to get a consistent spacing for the rivets. Some of them were a bit crooked, but realistically, unless you have a detailed look, you're not going to notice that 3 or 4 rivets were out of alignment with all the others. And this is coming up to the conclusion of today's episode. It's 15 minutes long, and all I'm doing here is scribing panel lines. It is a long process, and probably even longer just to watch 15 minutes worth of me just doing nothing but putting in rivets. Anyways, thanks for watching, and the next video should be up shortly. I'm actually about 2 or 3 videos ahead of myself right now, so hopefully I'll have them pumped out shortly. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.